Welcome to Biggest Spoilars, the destination for exclusive spoilers, latest updates.
General Hospital spoilers note a city exigency is slated to strike during the week of November 10th to 14th, so could Commodity Terrible go down on election night? The race for the coming mayor of Port Charles has felt like the longest election crusade in the history of detergents, as the plot has dragged on for months now. Still, it does feel as if the end is near. There's been a power struggle going on between the icons and baddies of the little city, as Jen Sidwell, Drew Kane, and Ezra Boyle have been looking to oust Laura Collins from her spot as the mayor, all to gain access to Sonny Corinthos' peers. Laura's been an outstanding mayor for times now, and was leading the Pates by a landslide, but thanks to Drew and Sidwell's schemes, they've managed to drop her support. Some of this has to do with the fellowship she and Sonny share. After all, they're nearly family, as they partake a grandson, Rocco Falconeri. Still, they also have a long-standing fellowship and history. It's hard not to suppose that Drew and Sidwell may not plan Commodity cowardly at the umpteenth hour, as Laura is still in the lead, indeed just by a laddie. The two may compass up a scheme to stop people from voting, which would help sway the election results in their favor. The term exigency can be used in spoilers but means so numerous different effects. So will a storm hit the little city, or could an explosion take place that negatively impacts a number of residers in the little city? Also again, perhaps the exigency is a power outage or commodity of that kind? A loss of electricity could potentially buy Drew and Sidwell time to extend the crusade by canceling election night and delaying it to a future date. With that said, if commodity happens that affects the safety of Port Charles residers during election night, indeed if it's a swerve, this could also distract Laura enough to turn her mind down from voting and concentrate on damage control. This type of script may also allow Drew or Sidwell to organize some kind of election fraud and ballot filling if Laura is end on her game. General Hospital spoilers feel to suggest that Laura may lose her spot as the Port Charles mayor, and if Ezra becomes mayor, this opens a door for Sidwell and Drew to run wild with their illegal conditioning and schemes. Dante Falconeri rehired Nathan West while Charlotte Cassadine and her mates colluded. Plus, lab break-in plans were changed when Gio Palmieri and Emma Scorpio Drake set up Ned Quartermain down outside Bobby's. On Moments General Hospital Dante, who learned that Anna Devane was on leave from the PCPD for a WSB assignment, was getting used to being the acting manager. He called Nathan to the PCPD and asked him to come back to help with the ongoing cases. Nathan was happy to agree. The two former mates talked about Dante's worries regarding Anna's work with the WSB. Nathan noted that it must have been a tough choice for Mayor Laura Collins to make the Tuffy's son acting manager while Anna was away. Dante assigned Nathan to be Chase's partner. Dante participated that he'd expressed analogous worries to Laura, but she claimed on him taking the part. He also assigned Nathan to mate with Harrison Chase but advised him that Chase had eyeless spots regarding Willow Tate. He explained she was the main suspect in Drew Kane's firing due to their once marriage. Officially drinking his old mate back to the police force, Dante returned Nathan's gun and emblem, and they participated a friendly bro hug. Chase and Brooke Lynn argued over his support of Willow at the Quartermain's home. Chase set up himself brazened by Brooke Lynn Quartermain. He bared to his woman that he was laboriously trying to clear Willow's name and had been visiting her in Pentonville. The couple argued about Chase's conviction that Michael Corinthos had shot Drew and was framing Willow, as well as the threat he was taking by probing this as a private citizen. Brooke Lynn was frustrated that her hubby was risking his career over this matter, but Chase maintained that Willow was innocent. You can't be sure Willow is innocent any further than you can be sure Michael is shamefaced. Brooke Lynn yelled. Brooke Lynn reminded Chase of when he lost his badge before Brooke Lynn reminded Chase of how agonized he was when he lost his emblem after hitting Valentine Cassadine. She could understand why he'd be willing to face that again for Willow, especially since she had a competent counsel in Alexis Davis and the backing of Drew. Chase questioned whether she was authentically concerned about his career or if she was more troubled by the possibility of him proving Michael's guilt. Brooke Lynn admitted that she didn't want to accept it could be true, but she knew her kinsman was able of violence. Read this General Hospital spoilers. Could Nellie Benson make a shocking comeback? Is Chloe Lanier on her way? Brooke Lynn didn't want Chase to prove Michael was guilty. She also didn't want her hubby to be the one to show that Michael was shamefaced and requested Chase to stay down. Chase cried that if Willow was incorrectly condemned while he did nothing, he'd hold himself responsible. In the end, he told his woman that she didn't have to believe Willow was innocent or that Michael was shamefaced. He asked her to understand that he demanded to support his persuasions. "I may not agree with your conduct, but your provocations for them only make me love you more," Brooklyn admitted. Nina tried to trap Michael in a setup. Michael asked Jacinda Bracken to meet him at the Metro Court Garden. As part of her scheme to catch Willow's partner, Nina Reeves arrived at the eatery with Wiley Corinthos, whom she had promised an ice cream sundae. She scowled when she saw Michael with the companion. When Wiley came over to his father's table, Michael introduced him to Jacinda, explaining that she was also Nina's adjunct. Nina tried to take Wiley down, but Michael claimed that his son stay with him and Jacinda for the treat. Stepping away with Michael for a private discussion, Nina questioned his choice to let her grandson spend time with a call girl, and Michael brazened her for trying to trap him. Willow suddenly showed up at the restaurant when she hovered to tell the family court judge about his mate. Michael reminded Nina of her history and said that by the time of the visit Willow would be in jail. Perplexed, Nina decided to validate the family spin to show the judge who Michael was letting near his son. Michael calmly said she could do that but advised he'd have her removed from the hostel, which his mama possessed, and locked out of the Crimson office, where she worked. Back at the table, Michael called Nina's Barranca, telling Wiley and Jacinda that Nina wanted to take their picture, and they all smiled as she took a print with her cell phone. Latterly, Wiley was enjoying a sundae with his pater and Jacinda when Willow arrived at the eatery and was shocked to see them looking so comfortable together. Danny, Rocco, and Charlotte Layden stayed. Danny Morgan along with Rocco Falconeri and Charlotte made their way to the sanitarium, eagerly anticipating the appearance of Britt Westbourne. As she reported for her shift, their charge was to discreetly acquire her crucial fob for Gio and Emma. Rocco, concerned about the implicit consequences, prompted Danny to suppose doubly about their plan, stewing it would only give Drew with further influence against him. Still, Danny was bent in his decision to be involved. Latterly, Charlotte laid out her strategy, suggesting that the boys produce a diversion to keep Britt enthralled while she stealthily recaptured the fob from Britt's bag. Elizabeth was concerned about Lucas' new place. Elizabeth Baldwin was thrilled when Lucas Jones told her he was moving in with Marco Rios. Still, she had dubieties about his choice to move into Windmere with Jen Sidwell. Lucas assured her that he knew about Sidwell's supposed crimes and that he and Marco would have their own separate sect. He added that indeed though it was soon, he was ready to take the threat of living with his swain. When Liz indicted Lucas of trying to sabotage his relationship by chancing in reason to leave, he conceded that she was correct. Emma and Gio set up Ned down. Emma and Gio were heading to the PCU lot when they discovered Ned lying outside Bobby's, floundering to breathe. Gio called out to Ned, pertaining to him as Grandpa, and hastened to his side. Still, when he looked back to ask Emma to call for help, she was gone. Concerned about not chancing a palpitation, Gio was about to start CPR when Britt came out of the eatery and took over. Emma was on the phone with exigency services as Britt performed CPR while they awaited for the ambulance. Liz and Lucas were at the Mecca when Britt arrived with the paramedics, and she informed them that the case was Ned Quartermain. Britt couldn't examine Ned but streamlined the teens. Britt tried to follow Liz and Lucas into an test room but was denied entry since she wasn't part of the medical team. When Gio and Emma reached the sanitarium, they encountered Charlotte, Rocco, and Danny, who mentioned they were there to recoup Britt's fob. As Britt approached the teens, she participated that Ned's heart meter had been restored, but he was still in peril, and Gio expressed his gratefulness for saving his forefather's life. Also, Britt noticed her bag was missing and asked if anyone had seen it. Charlotte looked down, gaping at the ground, and Britt hastened off to check if she had left it in the ambulance. Olivia gave Lulu a heads-up on Rocco and Danny in the Quartermain kitchen. Lulu Spencer came with a housewarming gift for Tracy Quartermain, but Olivia Quartermain informed her that Tracy had gone to a spa. Olivia also mentioned that she eavesdropped Rocco and Danny talking about Britt, but they stopped when they noticed her. While having tea with her former mama-in-law, Lulu revealed that Britt has been a delicate content for her and Rocco. She also participated her worries that their son wasn't being voracious with her and Dante about the time he spent with Britt. Lucas confirms Ned's heart attack empty-handed. Britt walked back into the exigency department, where Danny, Charlotte, and Rocco asked her about Ned's recovery. Charlotte also gently nudged Rocco, egging him to ask Britt if she had located her bag she hadn't, and she requested that they return to Bobby's to search for it at the restaurant. Just as their musketeers were entering the elevator, Emma and Gio arrived, and Britt explained that she had transferred Charlotte, Danny, and Rocco on a charge to keep them from fussing about Ned. Meanwhile, in the test room, Lucas verified that Ned had suffered a heart attack. When Liz refocused out that the drug was ineffective, Dr. Jones decided they would need to perform a coronary bypass if blood inflow didn't ameliorate. Olivia gets the bad news as Charlotte plotted with her conniving mates back at the Mecca. Britt stepped away for Olivia and Lulu, and Olivia broke down when Gio informed them that they believed Ned had a heart attack. Olivia expressed her gratefulness to Gio and Emma for saving Ned, but Gio credited Britt, stating that she was the bone who truly assured Ned's survival. Also, Lucas surfaced and informed the group that Ned had indeed endured a severe heart attack and would bear exigency surgery to remove the blockage if he didn't respond to the drug. In the world of Port Charles, power is never merely held, it is perpetually contested, a prize fought over in shadowy boardrooms, on sun-drenched piers, and in the vulnerable hearts of its citizens. The political landscape, often a backdrop for more personal dramas, has erupted into the foreground, transforming the upcoming mayoral election from a civic exercise into a primal struggle for the city's very soul. The week of November 10th to 14th promises not just a tally of votes, but a town emergency, a crucible event that threatens to burn away the facade of democracy and reveal the ruthless machinations festering beneath. This is more than an election, it is a baptism by fire, where encouraging words are weaponized, angry threats are made manifest, and the identity of a poisoner could tip the scales of power irrevocably. The contours of a conflict, Laura Collins vs. the Pincer Group. For years, Mayor Laura Collins has served as the moral compass of Port Charles. Her tenure has been defined by a steadfast dedication to public service, a deep-seated compassion for her constituents, and an unwavering belief in the rule of law. She is not a perfect leader, but she is a genuine one, her authority rooted in a lifetime of overcoming adversity and fighting for what is right. Her lead in the polls, once a commanding landslide, is a testament to the trust she has cultivated. However, this very trust is now her most significant vulnerability in the face of a cynical and opportunistic opposition. Arrayed against her is a coalition of convenience, a triumvirate of ambition we shall call the Pincer Group, the morally adrift Drew Kane, the enigmatic and ruthless Jen Sidwell, and the politically ambitious Ezra Boyle. Their alliance is not built on shared ideology but on a convergent goal, seizing control of the mayor's office to gain unfettered access to Sonny Corinthos's piers. These piers are not just wooden structures extending into the water, they are the lifeblood of the city's underground economy and a critical nexus for legitimate trade. Controlling them means controlling the flow of information, goods, and power in Port Charles. For Drew, it represents a path to reclaiming a sense of agency and influence he feels was stolen from him. For the shadowy Sidwell, it is a strategic necessity for her broader, undisclosed schemes. For Ezra, it is the ultimate prize, a position from which he can reshape the city to his own design. Their campaign has been a masterclass in psychological warfare and political sabotage. Unable to defeat Laura on the strength of their own platforms, they have weaponized her greatest strength, her relationships. The friendship she shares with Sonny Corinthos has been their primary cudgel. They have artfully reframed this long-standing, complex connection, forged through shared grandchildren, past alliances, and survived tragedies, as a corrupt partnership. In their narrative, Laura is not a mayor who maintains a necessary dialogue with all of her city's power players, she is in the pocket of a notorious mobster. This insidious messaging has slowly eroded her support, turning a landslide into a nail-bitingly close race. It is a classic tactic, when you cannot disprove the competence of your opponent, you destroy their character. The looming emergency, a spoiler's multifaceted threat. The term town emergency in the lexicon of soap opera spoilers is a tantalizingly vague portent. It could signify anything from a natural disaster to a manufactured crisis. In the context of the election, this ambiguity is the Pincer Group's greatest weapon. The nature of the emergency is almost irrelevant, its utility is what matters. Let us explore the potential scenarios and their devastating effectiveness. The natural catastrophe, a storm or explosion. A sudden, violent storm or a mysterious explosion in a key location would achieve several objectives simultaneously. First and foremost, it would create chaos and fear, emotions that are the enemies of rational, democratic deliberation. Citizens concerned for their safety are less likely to venture out to polling stations. Second, and more crucially, it would immediately divert Laura's attention. As mayor, her first and only priority would be crisis management, coordinating emergency services, ensuring public safety, and providing calm leadership. This forced pivot is a strategic gift to her opponents. While Laura is absorbed in damage control, she is incapable of executing the final, critical GOTV, get out the vote, efforts of her campaign. Her presence is removed from the political battlefield at the most decisive hour. Furthermore, a widespread emergency creates ideal conditions for the other, more nefarious strategies the pincer group is likely to employ. Scenario 2, the systemic sabotage, a power outage. A targeted power outage is a more subtle, but equally potent, form of attack. It doesn't carry the immediate visceral terror of an explosion, but its disruptive power is profound. By plunging key polling places or even entire districts into darkness, the pincer group could achieve a tactical postponement. Canceling election night due to a technical failure or infrastructure crisis buys them invaluable time. It halts Laura's momentum, frustrates her supporters, and allows Drew and Sidwell to regroup and launch a fresh wave of last-minute propaganda. It also introduces an element of doubt and instability into the electoral process itself, weakening public faith in the very institution Laura is sworn to protect. The ultimate gambit, election fraud and the chaos. Whether the emergency is a raging storm or a simple flipped switch, the resulting confusion is the perfect smokescreen for the oldest trick in the political playbook, fraud. With Laura distracted by her mayoral duties and election officials overwhelmed by the crisis, the opportunity for ballot stuffing, misplaced ballot boxes from pro-Laura districts, or even cyber interference with electronic voting systems becomes a terrifying possibility. Ezra Boyle, from his position within the system, would be uniquely placed to orchestrate or enable such a scheme. A few strategically altered tallies in a close race could be enough to swing the entire election. This is the darkest path, one that moves beyond political competition into the realm of outright treason against the democratic process. The stakes, a Port Charles Unchained. The spoilers suggest that Laura may indeed lose her position. The consequences of such an outcome are not merely a changing of the guard, they represent a fundamental realignment of power in Port Charles. If Ezra Boyle becomes mayor, he would effectively act as a puppet, his strings pulled by the more formidable Sidwell and the increasingly desperate Drew. The door they seek to open would swing wide, unleashing a new era of unchecked illegal activities and schemes. The Piers, once a point of tension and negotiation between Laura's government and Sonny's empire, would become a free trade zone for contraband. Sidwell's mysterious organization would operate with impunity, using the port as a hub for operations that could range from corporate espionage to far more dangerous international crimes. For Drew, this victory would be a hollow validation. Aligning himself with such corrosive forces would complete his tragic transformation from hero to antagonist. He would gain the power he craves but lose the last vestiges of his integrity, becoming a mere enforcer in a regime he does not truly control. Most importantly, the loss of Laura Collins would mean the silencing of Port Charles's most consistent and principled voice. Without her moral authority to act as a check on the city's darker elements, the balance of power would shift decisively toward corruption and cynicism. The police department, already under strain, would be politicized and undermined. The citizens would be left leaderless, governed by those who see them not as constituents to be served, but as obstacles to be managed or resources to be exploited. The wild card, Ned's poisoner and the election night connection. The spoiler regarding the revelation of Ned Quartermain's poisoner is not a separate thread, it is likely the fuse that ignites the entire town emergency. Ned, as a Quartermain, is intrinsically linked to the city's power structure. His sudden and severe health crisis, initially misdiagnosed as a heart attack but now suspected to be poisoning, is a political earthquake in its own right. The revelation of the poisoner's identity on or around election night could be the catalyst for the impending chaos. Consider the possibilities. The poisoner is revealed as a Sidwell operative. If evidence emerges that Jen Sidwell or one of her lackeys was responsible for poisoning Ned to silence him or disrupt the Quartermaine influence, it would create an immediate and explosive scandal. Laura would be forced to act, potentially ordering arrests that could be framed by her opponents as a political witch hunt designed to sway the election. The pincer group could then use this as their emergency, claiming Laura is abusing her power and destabilizing the city. The poisoner is an ally of Laura's. In a more devastating twist, if the poisoner is somehow connected to Laura's camp, even without her knowledge, Drew and Sidwell would have the ultimate October surprise. They could publicly unveil the evidence in a dramatic, last-minute press conference, creating a media firestorm that would utterly destroy Laura's credibility and her campaign. The resulting shock and betrayal would constitute a profound town emergency of trust. Ned himself knows the truth. What if Ned, upon regaining consciousness, possesses a piece of information that could destroy the pincer group? His attempted poisoning could have been a direct result of what he uncovered. His return to consciousness on election night, and his subsequent revelation, would force the villains to create a diversionary emergency, a storm, an explosion, a blackout, to prevent him from speaking out or to discredit him in the ensuing chaos. In each of these scenarios, the medical crisis of one man becomes the linchpin for the political crisis of an entire city. The baptism of the election is inextricably linked to the poison that nearly killed Ned Quartermaine. Conclusion: a battle for the city's future. The week of November 10th to 14th in Port Charles is shaping up to be a defining moment in the city's history. It is a multifaceted conflict where a medical mystery, a political showdown, and a criminal conspiracy are on a collision course. The encouraging words of Laura's supporters are being drowned out by the angry threats and ruthless actions of her opponents. The town emergency is not an act of God, it is a strategic tool, a weapon to be wielded in the final, desperate hours of a brutal campaign. The revelation of Ned's poisoner is the key that will unlock the true nature of this threat. As the citizens of Port Charles prepare to cast their votes, they are unknowingly stepping into a battlefield. The outcome will determine whether their city remains a community guided by the light of principle or descends into a playground for the corrupt, a place where power is won not through the consent of the governed, but through poison, propaganda, and chaos. The baptism begins now, and the waters are raging.